Welcome, friends. In today's The Australia Today episode, we are going to ask a big question. Will ChatGPT take away your job? And to answer this big question, we have two experts with us. Dr. Paul Waters, who's academic dean at AA Polytechnic, and we have Dr. Ritesh Chugh, who's associate professor at Central Queensland University. Paul and Ritesh, welcome to the Australia Today.
Thank you, Amit.
Thanks, Amit, for
Now,
the invitation.
so the big question everywhere is, will ChatGPT take away your job? But I think the biggest question is, do people understand what ChatGPT or similar AI technologies are? So, Ritesh, would you like to tell us what ChatGPT actually is?
Sure, Amit. So ChatGPT is a virtual assistant or a chatbot that uses machine learning based on natural language processing. In fact, ChatGPT is a very good example of generative artificial intelligence because it creates content that is completely new and has never existed before based on its underlying data set, which I believe it's trained on about over 1.5 billion pages. The problem currently with ChatGPT is it's only trained on data till I think mid of 2021. So the responses that we're getting currently are not recent. But that will obviously improve over time. We are already hearing whispers of a new version coming out soon. So yeah, look, ChatGPT I think is a game changer, and GPT really stands for generative pre-trained transformer. So a lot of us use the word GPT, but that's what it entails. And it was produced by a company called OpenAI. The current version of ChatGPT that we're using is much faster, it's more intuitive, it's user friendly. And the reason I say current version is because ChatGPT was in the market before December also, but then it was an old version and it was never released to the public. So I think releasing it to the public has been a game changer, and particularly given that it's free, everyone just jumped on board. And Amit, just for your listeners, it's important to note that the ChatGPT technology is one of those technological platforms that saw a tremendous growth. In fact, within 5 days of its release, it had over 1 million users, and that's never been the case. Whether it was the release of Facebook, whether it was the release of WhatsApp, we've never seen such a phenomenal growth. So obviously, there is something in it because of which we've seen this phenomenal growth.
Okay. Now, Paul, you are someone who has researched and write a lot in public arena on machine learning, especially. And you, as a student, I think have faced some issues with word processors where teachers said you can't use word processors. And so, ChatGPT, which I understand is part of machine learning kind of software technology, which is not new. It has been here for almost a decade now.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the key issue with ChatGPT that people are so afraid of?
Look, I think, the kind of interactive nature of ChatGPT and using programs to generate chat, it's not a new idea at all. I mean, back in 1964, there was a very famous program called ELIZA that was released. And, what ELIZA did was to have a simple set of rules in a program that pretended to be a therapist. And so people would have these really long kind of therapeutic conversations with this computer program, and people were astonished. And the founder of ELIZA went on to write a great book, which I highly recommend to people, about his amazement that people thought that it was kind of real because it was so good. But ELIZA only had a few really simple rules sitting behind it. And I think, as Ritesh pointed out, something like ChatGPT is sitting on billions of documents that it uses machine learning to train and learn the appropriate response given any particular set of inputs. And so, we have so many examples to draw upon the kind of creativity and the genius that it can tap into to produce something new every time is truly extraordinary.
So, the basic understanding is that ChatGPT can, is an AI technology that's designed to work like human beings. It's not going to maybe replace human beings. It can write codes, text prompts, academic essays, summarize reports. Now, as academics, we have a big question that, and many academics have raised this concern, particularly in Queensland and New South Wales. We are seeing at the school level as well, that because it's a generative technology, it's going to make the task of students easier. I think somewhere in the USA it passed a medical exam as well. Right, so are we going to, and Ritesh would understand, are we going to see a new age Munna Bhais coming up where they are plagiarizing? We are seeing next level of academic misconduct, which is not through Kenya or China or India or some Latin American country where a PhD student is writing your essay, but an AI writing your essay instantly in 15 minutes. Ritesh.
Um, I think, Amit, we should not react to ChatGPT in a knee-jerk reaction,
Hmm.
because ChatGPT and other AI technology have the potential to greatly benefit certain industries. I mean, obviously, it has got some negative impacts that we need to consider. And since you're focusing on education, um, you will know that New York City actually started the bans on ChatGPT. So New York was the first city to actually ban ChatGPT use in schools. In Australia, New South Wales then banned ChatGPT. A couple of days ago, Queensland has also jumped on board and they've also banned ChatGPT. In fact, interestingly, I was reading the New South Wales Department of Education, the person who made the comment, and she said that they have banned ChatGPT because the terms and conditions of ChatGPT say that the users have to be over 18 years of age.
Mhm.
And that's the reason they've banned it. Obviously, they gave another reason, which was that there are a lack of reliable safeguards, because it is possible that ChatGPT produces potentially explicit and harmful content. We did initially, and I've been playing around with ChatGPT since its inception. In the initial days, I did see some harmful content being generated, but look, it's a learning model. I've noticed that the harmful content has reduced over time. Now, coming back to academics, are we worried about it? Uh, Look, there are mixed views around it. I think, firstly, I disagree with the bans.
Yeah.
And the reason I disagree with bans is because there is talk of Microsoft integrating ChatGPT into the Bing search engine soon. In fact, it could be as soon as March.
Yep.
So then, are we then going to go and ban Bing? And Google is not going to sit and not do anything. Google obviously is going to introduce something similar also. Now, in terms of education, educators are concerned that it's going to promote cheating or plagiarism. But Amit and Paul, as you know, cheating, ghostwriting, contract cheating is not new. It's been there for years now. Obviously, in the case of contract cheating, you paid someone else to do it. And Amit, you mentioned some of those countries from where the contract cheating sites are emanating. But now we have that tool available here, and it can be used in similar way. So I think we should really see it as a tool that can help enhance um, our educational outcomes. So in fact, let's even see it as, if I think in terms of the students, I might even call it a learning assistant or a personal tutor, because students can use it to learn concepts. And remember, education is about developing critical skills, about developing social skills, about developing analytical skills, which are lifelong. Now, having said that, there is no doubt that educators are scrambling to redesign their assessments. We are all talking about redesign. In
Hmm.
fact, I was designing my assessments over the last couple of days, and I've been giving thought to the output that ChatGPT
Hmm.
will
Hmm.
generate
Hmm.
for those questions, and I've molded them so that
Hmm.
there is more critical analysis that's involved. ChatGPT will not generate direct questions.
Hmm.
I'm linking the assessments to students' prior experiences and knowledge. Um, so, look, I mean, we should, I think, use ChatGPT as a tool to augment human capabilities and
Hmm.
not as a replacement.
Yep.
Okay. Now, Paul, I'll come to you. Once the smartphones came, it said that it's made people more stupid, right? You have these scientific calculators. Everything is being done for you. One of my friends who was doing her PhD in physics, she went to South Korea, and she did her calculations using pen and paper, while everyone in South Korea in her advanced master's class, and she was a PhD student, just attending for credit some master's classes. Everyone else was using scientific calculators. They didn't know that the generation of students didn't know how to calculate things using pen and paper. Are we moving towards that side? I agree with what Ritesh is saying, that we should include everything, use chat gpt positively. But do you think it will create a whole lot of students who do not know their content?
Well, I think, I would say, as we always do in computer science, that it's garbage in, garbage out. And I think looking at some of the outputs that I've seen from ChatGPT, I think any academic worth their salt who's an expert in their field would be instantly able to spot something that was purely generated by ChatGPT. And the reason is, I think if you look back at the way that we construct our pedagogies and assessment, we often refer to models of cognition or learning. And I think you'd really have to be honest and say that if you've got something like a Bloom's taxonomy, for example, that the output from ChatGPT tends to be linked to some of the very lower levels in something like Bloom's taxonomy. So it is fantastic at creating, kinds of lists of things as a good example of concepts. But it's abysmal at any kind of critical analysis. And so, of course, as Ritesh said, if you simply construct your assessments in the right way, then perhaps drawing more on those higher level skills, then anyone who's just copying and pasting, it would be immediately obvious. I also think it's a bit of a wake up call for universities to really reflect on the purpose of assessment. And I
Hmm.
think,
Hmm.
in particular, refocusing on authentic assessment. So,
Hmm.
um, you know, I was going to say a rude word, but I think there's a whole lot of assessment that is out there nowadays that, you know, it is so poorly constructed that
Hmm.
ChatGPT, of course, can just blitz it. And so it is really coming back to thinking about getting the balance right between invigilated and non-invigilated assessment that really draws on high level skills, higher order thinking. If your assessment is so weak that GPT can pass it,
Hmm.
that's really it's kind of invalidating your approach then as a teacher and academic. So I I only see upside to this in all honesty. But it is certainly putting people on their toes, and I completely agree with Ritesh. I think any kind of ban is short-sighted and probably impossible to enforce within a few weeks. So why do it?
Okay, so now let's move from academia to industry. So you're past your examination using chat gpt, but now your biggest competitor is chat gpt in the field. You are going to compete with an ai technology, and as microsoft has recently announced that it's going to invest multi-billion dollar investments in open ai. Maybe it will buy open ai, as Ritesh has pointed out. It's going to use, and microsoft is something which has the niche everywhere, like everyone uses Microsoft. And OpenAI has said that its tool, can take away certain kinds of jobs. For example, involving repetitive tasks, data entry. For the last couple of years, we have been seeing working from home, and these are the kind of jobs that were prominently given to people who wanted a second income. So, Ritesh, are we talking about major job losses here?
Um, Amit, look, ChatGPT and other AI technology, and I emphasize other AI because there are plenty of other AI tools that people are actually using to produce useful content, whether
Hmm.
that is for copywriting, whether that's for music generation, whether that's for artwork.
Yeah.
And, I have always believed that we need to use AI as an assistant
Hmm.
because I mean, I personally feel, the question isn't whether ChatGPT will be good enough to take on more cognitive tasks, but
Hmm.
rather how we will adapt to ChatGPT.
Yep.
Hmm.
If you look at the different areas, you mentioned the impact on data entry,
Hmm.
language translation is another area, customer
Hmm.
service. We'll see chatbots that are based on
Hmm.
ChatGPT. We'll see some impact on writing and content creation. But see, the essence really is humans.
Hmm.
Artificial intelligence is not capable of original thought or creativity,
Hmm.
in the same way as humans. You
Hmm.
know,
Right.
I mean, think of a copywriter's job. ChatGPT can generate human-like text,
Hmm.
but it lacks context.
Hmm.
It lacks the empathy. It
Hmm.
lacks resonance with audience. So yeah, look, there are to answer your question in simple words, it'll have an impact on some jobs, but that doesn't mean that we'll see immediate replacement. It will take time, and I think as humans, we just need to adapt to this technology.
Mm.
And I know I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, for me, I see ChatGPT as a game changer. It's one of those technological inventions that I haven't seen since internet. Because yeah, no doubt social media came, but social media's transition was very slow.
Hmm.
ChatGPT's existence into the market has been very abrupt, and it has really shaken everyone, whether that's a content writer, whether that's a journalist, whether that's an educator, whether that's a
Yeah.
programmer. So
Hmm.
uh, I think the impacts will vary depending upon the specific industry and the task.
Okay. Now coming to you, Paul's. Ritesh talked about social media. I'm someone who thought Orkut was the best thing after sliced bread, and then came Facebook. So I didn't join Facebook for a very long time, and same with Twitter. So maybe I'm slow to adapting to newer social media or new AI technologies.
Amit, sorry to jump in. I
Yeah.
was also a late adapter to Facebook. In fact, I might sound like a Luddite. I'm still not on Instagram. So there you go. It just depends. I think it's
Yeah.
about which tools meet our needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, you were asking Paul at the start whether he's on Twitter. Paul said,
Hmm.
"Nah, that's fine because he doesn't feel the need for it." So it's the
Hmm.
same with artificial intelligence tools also. Now,
Hmm.
before I started using ChatGPT, I never used DALI for art
Yeah.
generation.
Hmm.
Now, it's fantastic. In fact, Amit, uh, I think I mentioned to you, how
Yeah.
it's useful for generating illustrations.
Illustration.
You
Yes.
write a lot of books, and every time you pay the illustrator money,
Yeah.
now you can easily generate those illustrations for
Mm.
virtually nothing.
Yeah.
Obviously, consider the copyright
Yeah.
issues around it, but there is an
Yeah.
example of how it can be used,
Yeah.
how AI can be used usefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Ritesh, one of the things with good-looking guys like me is that we don't have to pay our illustrators, and I
That's true.
usually go to friends, and I think this is going to be a game changer for me. For example, I struggled to get an illustrator because I couldn't pay. The publisher was not ready to pay. It was a university publisher, by the way, and they were not ready to pay. They said we usually pay in kind. I said, money is the most kindest thing that you can give to a person. Instead of they can buy the complimentary copies later themselves. So one of the things, Paul, is that uh, coming to industry, and so for example, people have been using music based AI technologies, to create loops and all those things
Yep.
for ages. What happens with the royalty? For example, I start on the instructions of Ritesh and you, I start using Chat GPT. I write the new Bhagavad Gita, or I write a new Bible or something else, maybe a science fiction fantasy book.
Yep.
What will happen to the royalties? Should I share it with OpenAI platform or Microsoft, or do I give a credit to my Chat GPT bots?
It's a fantastic question, and I think it's something I've been thinking about a lot in the last couple of weeks. I think something like ChatGPT, it is trained off billions of documents, and so in some ways, I think if it is using the intellectual property of others, then in the future you might well see a royalty flow back to the publishers of those documents. Of course, as an academic, I wish that the academic publishers would then pass some of that income back to the academics that actually write the papers, but that very, very rarely happens, except perhaps for textbooks. So, I think the broader discussion around intellectual property, I think this is a great stimulus for that discussion, because it's certainly true that many people who create intellectual property now for the greater good or public benefit don't receive a financial reward. We've seen a huge shift in recent years towards open access publishing, for example. So, making knowledge more freely available. But someone still has to pick up the tab. So, nations or research agencies or universities are paying out vast sums for that knowledge. So in the future, if that knowledge can actually just be created for free through ChatGPT, then as Ritesh said, this is hugely disruptive. And I don't think the world of IP will be the same within 12 months as it is now.
Now, coming back to both of you, will Chat GPT?
Can I,
Yep,
sorry to
Ritesh.
interrupt. I
Yep.
just have a slightly different view with Paul here in terms of royalty. Now, Paul, as you know, ChatGPT generates something that is new and has never existed before.
Yeah.
In fact, I read somewhere in the news yesterday that a teacher, I can't remember the country, did a writing exercise with their student and generated a book, or generated books actually, and they've sold 3,000 copies so far using ChatGPT. So they just created simple books, sold them on Amazon, Kindle versions, $1, $2, whatever. So I'm not worried about the details, but the fact is people are using it. In fact, so in terms of the copyright issue here, and Paul and Amit, you will be aware that a few research papers have already been written where
Yes.
ChatGPT has been acknowledged as an author. So ChatGPT has been added as an author in the author list. The problem with that is, and in the publishing world, in the research world, you are only added as an author to a paper when you've made a substantial contribution. Now, how do we show ChatGPT's substantial contribution in terms of whether it was just a tool or it actually did some writing? But the issue here is, look, this is like looking into a crystal ball at this stage. There is not a lot of consideration into the legal aspects that have been given as of date. There's a lot of work that will evolve, because remember, this is all evolving, whether it's around copyright issues, whether it's around, we've touched on a few ethical issues, but copyright and intellectual property issues, we'll get more of that in the coming days. And let's not forget that ChatGPT is free today. It's a trial version. And I think at some stage ChatGPT will make it a paid version. So what will happen then to all these millions of users who are hooked to ChatGPT? Will we all start paying? Maybe not. But then by the time, we are hoping that giants like Microsoft will already integrate it, or Google will integrate another language learning model into their search engine. In fact, when I think of ChatGPT, I actually think of it as a Wikipedia replacement.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
Sorry.
it's quite interesting. I think ChatGPT has made Ritesh really, really smart. Because that was the question I was going to ask you about the research paper things, after books. But I was watching a documentary, not a documentary, a news report on Tesla, and one of the experts said, basically, Tesla's AIs, or whatever the software they are using, is basically being made smart by continuous human use. So is that happening with ChatGPT as well, that we are making it smarter every day? More and more, millions of people use it. ChatGPT becomes more smart. Second thing that the news report noted, the expert noted basically, is that these kind of AI technologies have been given to human beings at a stage when we are not ready to use it. Especially Tesla, people don't understand it's not a fully self-driving car, right? It has its limitation. You need to have your hands on the steering. It can drive. It's like it has a lane assist and everything, but where accidents can occur at certain point if you don't pay attention. So do you agree that ChatGPT or similar AI technologies are being handed to us, even if it's free, or to make it more smart, at a stage where they should have been tested before and then open to the public? Paul?
Look, I think there's no other way for humans to progress often than being forced to adapt to change. And I just think get on with it and do it. And I think the employees who get out there today and master something like ChatGPT to improve their productivity rate. So coding is a good example. If you can learn it, adapt it, build it into your pipeline, then when you are pumping out code 10 times faster than the person next door, and the next round of redundancies come, it's just the facts. I mean, it's a Darwinian system that we have in our human society to some extent, and the people that succeed are the ones that can get on top of this stuff. If you can't adapt, then perhaps find a different line of work. I hate to be brutal about it, but I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
I think you have summed it really well, and that's what I meant when I said Ritesh is becoming more smarter using
That's
ChatGPT.
right.
He's a good example of survival of the fittest.
He's ahead of the curve.
So Ritesh, what are your views on that? ChatGPT will become smarter, or human beings will become smarter with ChatGPT?
Human beings, Amit, have always been smart.
Hmm.
We adapt really quickly.
Yep.
What you are seeing in the last couple of months, or at least last 1 month, is quick adaptation. No doubt we had the Christmas holidays in between, but after we've come back, most organizations have really started to have this discussion around what needs to be done about ChatGPT, whether it's about redesigning assessments, whether it's about talking to it about students. But your question was, will humans or ChatGPT? Look, humans will always stay smarter than artificial intelligence.
Okay.
No doubt, artificial intelligence is being trained with the current data that we are giving it. Every day, there are millions of users who are using ChatGPT, and that was one of the reasons it was released to the public, is so more data can be gathered. And if you will know that within 2 days of its release, Elon Musk banned the use of Twitter data for ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
So he just disconnected. So now we won't give ChatGPT Twitter data anymore. So what that has really meant is the lack of training, at least when it comes to Twitter data. But now, as humans, we are giving it more data, and the system is learning. And as a result, its predictions have improved. It's creating better responses. And Amit, you mentioned about calculators and cars. calculators are still being used today, and humans are using those calculators. So we need to know how to use the calculator. When I was studying, I didn't have access to a scientific calculator.
Yeah.
If you gave me a scientific calculator today and told me generate graphs, I can't do it. Whereas if you gave it to my son, he can use it and he can generate graphs and do all those calculations with it. Whereas when you think of cars, we still need humans to drive the car and make those life-death decisions.
Yep.
So yeah, I think we should just see ChatGPT as an assistant and obviously adapt ourselves.
Paul and Ritesh, before I end our today's episode, I'd like to share a Hindi kahavat, proverb. Bandar ke haath mein nariyal dena, to give a coconut in the hands of monkey. Now it's up to the monkey if he's going to break the coconut and eat it, or if he's going to attack people with the coconut, or if he's going to break the coconut on his head. I think time will tell if this coconut in the shape of ChatGPT or AI technologies is going to harm or help or enhance human beings. But I would like to thank Dr. Paul Waters and Associate Professor Ritesh Chugh for your valuable time and your valuable insights into the new emerging technologies. And I hope that we will have a chance again in coming months to talk about a new issue. Thank you very much.
Amit, and just before you go,
Yep.
we go, I asked ChatGPT to write a witty line for this interview. And I was just doing that. So ChatGPT says to me, ChatGPT may not have a heart, but it definitely has the brains to win a conversation. So if I sum up my thoughts just based on that quote, and this is not ChatGPT saying it, this is Ritesh saying it. I'm looking at ChatGPT in admiration and disbelief. I'm looking at it in wonder and worry, particularly because ChatGPT is generating responses that range from the magic to the mundane. Thank you.
Great. On this note, I once again thank Paul and Ritesh for your valuable time and insights. And I would like to thank all the viewers of the Australia Today. Keep following and subscribing to us, and we will be back. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.